So, thank you, Marsu, for everything. And I wish you to have a bright future ahead.
Wow, this sucks. Fun fact, I occasionally rewatch my own videos. Not because I like them so much, it's mostly to see where I can do better. But it's also my very own version of the try not to cringe challenge. Though honestly, it's not as bad as I'm describing it. For a first video, it's fine. But I just got so many things wrong or didn't really elaborate on many of the things I said. You could tell my knowledge of Marsu was maybe a bit better than surface level. Though also, let's be real, barely anyone really knows or talks about Marsu, so no one could call me out for it. And still, I stand by most things I said in that video. My friend Marsupilami is incredible, and it gets better with every rewatch. But while I spend so long talking about it, I kind of left one show in the dark. It's the show most people actually remember, and heck, it's the show that got me into Marsu in the first place. And it's also the show without which my friend Marsu might have never even existed. That's right, it's finally time to talk about the original, the 2000s, Marsupilami. Hey folks, I'm Hoobs. In this video, I want to go down memory lane and see if the original 2000 show is any good, or if I'm simply remembering it to be way better than it actually is. There will be spoilers for some of the episodes, so there's your warning if you want to watch it first. Well, now that we're all on the same page,
Have you ever had this happen to you?
The first thing I felt when watching the 2000 show was total whiplash. Now yes, I did expect it to an extent. It's the first Marsupilami show that's made in Europe after all. But there's no other way around it. This show is rough. And I don't mean just the animation. You'll see what I mean when I cover some of its episodes. I'll start with the ones I really liked to give it a fair shake, and then we'll see how it all slowly falls apart. If you want to have a great time watching this show, I absolutely recommend starting with Marsupilami in New York. Other standouts are Marsupilami Makes a Friend, Marsupilami in Mars, Marsupilami at the Zoo, Marsupilami in the Ring, the Marsupilami Palombada, and Marsupilami on TV. Yeah, the naming is very creative, I know. These episodes are where it truly shines and shows that potential it never quite fully reached. Anyway, I'm starting the show with Marsupilami in New York, and from the first few frames, it does not look great. I'm not exactly sure why, but this show is physically exhausting to watch. Maybe it's the overly sharp outlines for all the characters and environments, or the obviously choppy movement. Maybe it's the practically non-existent shading, so the oversaturated colors make me feel like my retinas are on fire. But there's a sort of campiness to all of it. It's a charming style, and it really screams, hey, this is our first one. We tried our best with what we had, okay? Anyways, the plot. It's a lovely morning in the Colombian rainforest. Marsu is chilling with his family when... Okay, when I said I felt whiplash, this is what I meant. For context, in every adaptation of Marsupilami, he and his family get a different sound. In My Friend Marsu, he sounds his best in my opinion. It's such a perfect mix of animalistic growls and inflections, and it has an incredibly wide range for expression. Just listen to it.
Okay. Bye bye.
Well, I'll let you get back to work.
Honestly, I think it should be his canonical voice verbatim. It's way too good. Later on, in Hoobah Hoobah Hop and Our Neighbors the Marsupilamis, he's more nasally, and he kind of sounds like a little gremlin.
Beep, beep, beep. Hoobah, hoobah.
Marsu, no!
Hoobah.
It's not my cup of tea, but it's grown on me. In the game, well, he sounds just okay. My biggest problem is the way he says Hoobah. It's just weird. But here, Marsu sounds wrong. All the sounds he makes are fine, but when he talks, oof.
Hoobah! 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 Hoobah, bye bye! Hoobah! Hoobah, Bibu! Hoobah!
It's so weirdly deep and rough, and I don't get any sense that it's an animal making these sounds. When I close my eyes and just listen to him, in my friend Marsu, I imagine an energetic creature, something foreign but so warm and friendly. But here, all I can think of is some guy in front of a microphone. And it's ironic, because several times in the show, we see people dressed as Marsupilami trying to make these sounds as a gag. But it doesn't really work, because Marsu himself already sounds like a guy in a costume. And what makes it even worse is that his voice isn't even consistent. Sometimes he sounds completely different between episodes, and other times he changes his voice in the same scene. And yeah, from me ranting about it for so long, you can probably tell that it was by far, and I mean by far, the most distracting thing about the show for me. If he sounded even a little closer to what he's like in My Friend Marsu, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. So anyway, back to the episode. Mrs. Marsu asks Marsu, that's not gonna get confusing at all. Mrs. Marsu asks Marsu to get new flowers for their nest. In his search, Marsu stumbles upon a biologist who's gathering rare flowers. Or, I guess it's a florist? Anyway. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he ends up in the biologist's plane set on a flight to New York. Now Marsu has to navigate his way around New York City to find his way back to Palombada. While in the city, Marsu gets up to plenty of shenanigans and meets all sorts of people who tag along and try to help. All this is happening while he's in a constant cat and mouse chase with Backalive, who's trying everything in the book to capture Marsu while he's outside of his comfort zone. Now, this premise is frankly pretty cool. It takes the established formula of Marsu and flips it on his head. Just like the comics did it in issues 10 to 12, when he and his family stayed in Chiquito with Colin and Remy. Oh, and yeah, I've read the comics now. You should be very afraid. And just like in the comics, watching Marsu mess around in the city is very entertaining. Another thing I really like about this story is the sheer ambition behind it. It's the only two-parter in the whole show. They just couldn't fit the whole story into one episode. And I don't know, it gives everything so much more depth. We get characters with actual nuance and at least some kind of development. There's more room for everything to breathe, so the setups and payoffs are that much more satisfying. This continuity is something that made me pay way more attention to it than to other episodes, all of which exist in a vacuum from one another. This ambition also shows up in the animation. I'm pretty sure these are the only two episodes where we get impressive shots like this one. It's rough, it's flat, but damn, it has its moments. And the creators of this show deserve full credit for it. And since I mentioned the characters...
My name's Leo.
Oh my goodness! This is Leo. No, not that one. He's in a group of skateboarding kids, and he becomes Marsu's companion for the duration of these two episodes. I don't really want to outright say it, but I feel like this is where the inspiration for My Friend Marsupilami came from. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was. This Leo works really well. He's well written and he's proactive in the story, as all good characters should be. It's also really fun to watch the interactions between him and Marsu. They all feel very natural. Other characters are alright too. Backalive and the biologist butting heads is really funny. And the way the other side characters are done is great. I particularly like how Leo's father reacts to all this. It's all good stuff. Another standout here is the humor. The comics established very early on that they will not shy away from political and social commentary. And it's good to see that this kind of humor carried over into the show, albeit a bit more timid to follow the broadcasting regulations. So yeah, Marsupilami in New York is great. Though when the kids started rapping about Marsu, I really wanted to skip ahead. The only other complaint I'd have is that the rest of the Marsupilami family is nowhere to be seen. I mean, duh, but still. Don't worry though, they get plenty of screen time in other episodes. And since I don't have that much more to add here, let's talk about those. I will cover each episode on a more surface level this time around to save on time and let you watch them for yourselves. Each of them has their own unique strengths, and if you only watch them with Marsupilami in New York, you'll have a pretty good time. Alright, let's get to them. The Marsupilami Palombada is all about Mrs. Marsu. The baby Marsupilamis are taking a bath when Backalive tries to capture them. He fails and drops a radio, which Mrs. Marsu takes a liking to, much to everyone's annoyance. She listens to it pretty much 24/7 until it eventually runs out of battery. That prompts Mrs. Marsu to find other ways to listen to her favorite song, which sends her on an adventure to Chiquito. After some time, Marsu gets worried about her going missing. He follows the trail to reunite with Mrs. Marsu, as Backalive once again tries to catch her. While in Chiquito, Mrs. Marsu accidentally inspires her favorite band from the radio, and when she and Marsu meet up at their concert, they dance to the new wave of music, the Palombada. It's a fun episode. Seeing things from Mrs. Marsu's perspective is fresh. Everyone gets their spotlight for a bit. It's good stuff. I also love the scene where they dance together. It's so cute. Kind of like the rest of the episode if you think about it. But there's still more to talk about, so let's move on. Marsupilami Makes a Friend is another case where I can see the possible inspiration for my friend Marsu. We watch Marsu being the good dad he is, spending time with his kids. In stark contrast to that, we then see a wealthy family with a neglectful father. He's trying to do anything to keep his daughter Victoria at least somewhat happy while he's too busy at work to spend time with her. That's when Victoria asks for a Marsupilami, so a team is sent out to catch him. Which they do. Rather easily, actually. Really makes me wonder if I overstated Backalive's competence in my first video. I'll come back to him later. Anyway, Marsu finds himself stuck with Victoria for the time being. She treats him exactly how you'd expect her to. But Marsu sees right through it. So he decides to give her the love and attention she actually needed, which finally starts changing her for the better. Eventually, Victoria comes to a realization that she can't keep Marsu away from his family, so she decides to run away into the jungle so that she doesn't lose her only friend. She ends up in immense danger, and Marsu saves her in an event that finally brings Victoria's family together. I like that the story clearly states who's to blame for the whole situation. Victoria's father might as well be missing. And her only hope in the babysitter completely failed to make any kind of personal connection with her. Of course she would turn out like this. She's miserable. Victoria is a simple character, but she's written exceptionally well. Marsu is also great here. He steps in to help. He takes his role as a father seriously when necessary. It could have easily been written as some kind of rivalry, but no. He knew exactly what Victoria needed and helped her finally feel happy. These kinds of dynamics are where Marsupilami is at its best in my opinion. Plus it's also really funny and adorable. So yeah, this one is a must-watch. Let's do another one before we move on. Marsupilami and Mars is about Marsupilami and Mars. Man, they really were creative with that naming. So, Marsu is enjoying his day when he encounters... Oh wow, that's Noah! For those who don't know, which is probably most of you, Noah is a character from the mainline comics. He worked for the Circus Zabaglione as an animal trainer. Say that 10 times fast. But he was famous for being the trainer for Mars, who's a black Marsupilami. We don't exactly know how Mars got there, but it's heavily implied that he was smuggled in. One night, Noah finally puts his plan into motion and escapes the ship with Mars. It all goes well until the circus owner pulls out a rifle and freaking shoots him! The comics really don't mess around. That event splits Noah and Mars, the latter now having to fend for himself in the jungle. This comic has some of the most somber moments in the whole series. We watch Mars all alone in the jungle. He's lost and confused. Although it starts comical, as night falls, the mood changes very drastically. He doesn't know what to do, he's terrified, and all he can think of is, well, his only friend, Noah, who he last saw bleeding out before he disappeared completely. It's heartbreaking to watch, and this line really sells it. For the first time in his life, Mars understands that from now on, he is alone. Noah's fine, by the way, he gets saved. Come on, it doesn't get that dark. If you can't tell by now, this is one of my favorite comics in the whole series. And I really love these two. Noah is the perfect sassy jerk who's jaded from civilization. You know, real tired of that society. It's just fun to watch his snarky commentary about everything happening around him. And as for Mars, well, he's my favorite dork. Every scene he's in, he's just adorable. The only complaint I really have about him is that he ditches the bowler cap. I wish he kept it. It looks cool on him. But going back to the show, seeing them here was a welcome surprise. Though you can tell that the story is way different here. Instead of being Mars's trainer at the circus, Noah just kind of has him. But now he wants to release Mars back into the wild, which is why he needs Marsu's help. He wants Marsu to look after Mars until he gets capable enough to be independent. Noah then gets captured by Backalive, yeah, he appears a lot in this show, who uses him as bait to catch Mars. So now Mars is forced to fully embrace his instincts in order to save his friend and avoid being captured. Honestly, for what it is, this story is well done. Marsu gets a direct counterpart he can bounce off of, and it works. It's easily the most fun episode to watch, mostly because Mars is such a cute dork, I love him. And they kept the characters of him and Noah well intact. Even when he's kidnapped, Noah can't help but start making snarky comments towards Backalive and playing mind games with him. And we watch Backalive get increasingly done with this nonsense. It's so fun. And, this is easily the best part, Mars keeps his bowler cap! Yeah! See how there's a pattern between all of the good episodes? The best episodes of Marsupilami are the ones where there's another character taking the spotlight. And don't get me wrong, Marsu is good, sometimes great even. But he's at his best when he has someone to have an active dynamic with. And it's the same case with the other episodes I mentioned. In Marsupilami in the Ring, he has great interactions with the members of the Fight Club, which does spawn some good intrigue before the big match. I also like how he went with them just because. And his whole family just accepts it. And it has some of my favorite scenes in the show too. Just look at them go. They're so cute. The same goes for Marsupilami on TV, where he and the news reporter lady have a cool action-packed adventure together. And in Marsupilami at the zoo, his fatherly qualities shine once again, as he's trying to bring the baby monkey back to his mother. It also has this gem. And yeah, that's about all the positive things I can say about this show. These 8 episodes are as good as it's going to get. Because from this point onward, that's where it all goes downhill. My biggest problem with this show is just how boring it is. I can't even go into much detail for most of the episodes, because I barely even remember what happened in them. I guess there was an episode where the baby Marsus got their time to shine? but they were all so similar to one another they might as well have been one character. And that's me being generous. Many of the episodes are also exactly what they say they are. Marsupilami at the mall? Yup. Him and his family are brought into a mall as an attraction. Shenanigans ensue. Marsupilami at the Palace Hotel? Marsu ends up in a super high-end hotel and plays cat and mouse with his head manager. The Marsupilami Highway? There's a highway being built in the Colombian rainforest and Marsu gets annoyed enough to interfere. The show as a whole gets very repetitive in that sense. There's nothing going on past the surface level plot. And the thing is, you can have predictable setups like these. That's not the whole issue. It's just that when the story itself is so straightforward, you would expect to have characters or world building to keep us invested. But they fail so hard to give us exactly that. There's no real continuity between the episodes, the world as a whole feels very static. And outside of the few good episodes I talked about, almost all characters in the show have all the nuance of stale cardboard. Remember what I said about Marsu being at his best when he has someone interesting to tag along with? Yeah, that means that in all other episodes he becomes just as boring. I still like him and the rest of his family, don't get me wrong. They get a few standout moments, some funny gags, they're also cute, but that's about it. The show as a whole barely takes any risks with the story or characters. It plays things too safe for its own good. At some point when watching it, I was counting minutes until the episode was over. That's how much I wanted to get it over with. And I never expected I would feel like that about it. And with how often Backalive appears in the episodes, he deserves his own section. I'll say it outright. I don't like Backalive in this show. At all. There's a reason why I talked about him so much in my video about my friend Marsu. He's a fun villain to watch. He actively shows his knowledge and skill as a hunter, and we always see him get close to his goal. In the original comics, his contraptions at least got Marsu's attention, and he jumped at every opportunity to get his trophy. His steps are well calculated, with him doing lots of planning in advance. His hubris or plain bad luck get in the way, sure, but we see that he should be taken seriously. And he's not just a good hunter, he's also an excellent social engineer. We always see him getting into some kind of position of power. He twists the narrative in such a way that lets him gain trust and gives him the upper hand over Marsu and his friends. And now we come back to this show. Everything I said about Backalive earlier? Yeah, forget about it. He's not clever, he's not skilled. Here, he's just a buffoon with a rifle, and that's all he ever is. He only really shines in Marsupilami in New York and Marsupilami in Mars because, you know, he's actually competent in these. But that's 2, maybe 3 episodes out of 26. In the rest of the show, he's a complete joke. It gets even worse because we're constantly shown characters who are better than him at his own job. Backalive gets so bad, in fact, that this show had me wonder if I gave him too much credit, but no. He really is as good as I described him, but just not here. What a shame. And believe it or not, that's all I can say about this show. If I could condense my thoughts about the 2000s Marsupilami into one word, it would be awkward. Its art style is very rough, its characters are stale, its structure is repetitive. There's some really questionable choices like with Marsu's voice acting. Oh, and the music is pretty meh too. What's so weird about all this is that the show is obviously trying to be faithful to the original comics. Some plot points and characters are taken almost directly from them. One episode in particular is an almost direct adaptation of issue 13 from the comics series. And yeah, maybe this show is faithful to the source material. But now I'm left wondering, what was the point of following the comics so closely if this is what we ended up with? This isn't going to be a revelation for many of you, but comics and animation are 2 vastly different mediums. What works in one doesn't always work in the other without some major changes. At that point, why not make a fully original story that does work as an animated show? Well, that must have been what this show's creators thought too. Because what came after was genuinely incredible. And yet, the 2000s Marsupilami is still important. Many people remember it very fondly. Heck, when I bring up Marsu in conversations, this song from the credits is usually the first thing other people reference.
Dans la jungle tropicale habite un étrange animal.
And yeah, this show was my first introduction to Marsu. But now that I've watched it again as an adult, I don't love it. Not nearly in the same way I love my friend Marsupilami, or the comics, or the game. But I appreciate it for everything it did. It finally put Marsu on TV in Europe. It gave the animators their footing. And it proved that this idea can work. It gave Marsu a voice, as weird as it is. And it gave him a new audience that might have never discovered him otherwise, myself among them.
Les dessins animés qui sont sortis quand j'étais jeune.
Hoobah, Marsupilami.
And I do have nostalgia for it. Back when I watched it when I was 8 years old and I was doing my homework, yeah, those were definitely simpler times. If there is any takeaway from this, don't be afraid of doing something for the first time. It will not be all that great. It'll be rough around the edges, but it'll show your potential and give you something to be proud of. I took that message to heart, and look where I am now. Running a tiny niche channel where the wait between videos can be either 1 month or 1 year. But hey, at least I hope the quality is there, right? Flawed as I think it is, this show needed to happen. This team needed to see what works and what doesn't with Marsu on the screen. And for that reason alone, I'm glad it exists. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. We just managed to pass 500 subs, and that's just insane. Thank you guys so much for that. If you want to contribute to the growth of the community around Marsupilami, you can also join my server on Discord. It's not super active right now, but it's full of cool people you can talk to. There's also my Patreon, where you can drop $1 or $2 to support my future content. Speaking of which, a huge shout out goes to Sephi Boy, Parrot Griffin, Ashy Prower, Fancy Astari, Grimburger the Cheeseburger, Killer Space, Lumo, and Keo. And here's some news for you. World Place is currently live. It's a massive canvas for everyone to draw on, so I decided to add Mrs. Marsu to Brussels. She turned out amazing. But none of this would have been possible without help. So, huge thanks to Millie WINKY, Fancy Astari, and Laura for their contribution. Well, that's all for now. Later, folks.